I've been married to Mike. We guess we're getting ready to celebrate our 34th anniversary. We grew up in North Alabama. We moved up here from Mobile, Alabama. Mike's job brought us up this way. Josh, Maggie, and John Michael. John Michael's the oldest. Josh is in the middle. And then Maggie's our youngest. Josh, when he was in high school, he did mission trips. I know he went to Thailand with the church. He went to the Maldives Islands for 10 weeks. When he came back from those trips, I always asked him, Josh is not a real talker to his parents, so when he would come back, I got to where I'd ask him the same question every time, and then I knew I'd get the other information later. I would say, what is the one thing that stuck out to you about the trip? And he always said the people. He just loved being a part of people's lives and serving. He just always had a dream to serve the unserved. He even told me at one point, he said, I'm going to go into the military. I'm like, that's fine. He went on to attend the U of A when he got out of college. He went straight into the military. He wanted to do special ops. So he got into the end of his first phase, which is marked by a period called Hell Week. And he was injured. On that Tuesday, we got a call and that he had dropped out. And we knew that was going to be very, very hard on him because he wanted that so bad. The summer of 2016, he kind of said, Mom, I'm thinking about moving to Buena Vista, Colorado. As long as you can support yourself, get a job, that's fine, great, it's fine. Buena Vista was a town that we knew well because when Mike used to work for Young Life, and we took kids from Alabama up into that area skiing every year. And then we did some summer assignments at two Young Life camps that are in that area. So that was not a strange place for us. And it felt very safe because we were very familiar with that area. So he found a couple of part-time jobs and found a roommate, and off he went. September 27th was a Tuesday. Just a normal day at school until I get, my principal calls me and says, will you come down to the office during your break? And it's just, I don't know, you never lose that little kid feeling like, ooh, I'm in trouble, I'm going to the principal's office. So I walked down there and they kind of ushered me into a room. When I saw Mike sitting there, I knew something was wrong. I just didn't know what it was. So Mike looked at me and he just said, I got a call from Memorial Hospital in Colorado Springs. He said, Josh has been in a bad accident and he is unresponsive. So at that point, I just looked at Mike, I said, let's go. There were just moments that you just collapsed. I mean, just kind of fell apart, and it just all seemed so surreal and just unbelievable. How could this be happening? And we were slowly getting bits and pieces of the story. He had gone to work out at the gym at 5:30 in the morning. He was riding his bike home. He was maybe a half a mile, maybe a mile from his house, and there's one traffic light in this whole town. How does this kind of stuff happen in this tiny little town? Some interesting pieces started coming together, and we heard more of the story. He had a traumatic brain injury. He was not responsive. He also had a broken neck. And he had a fractured back and multiple facial fractures. We didn't know what we were going to walk into, but I think we were prepared the best we could be. We got there probably 1 o'clock in the morning. First, when we found out he was listed as some anonymous, Paramount Doe, and that most of the time when people are in the ICU, they're identified by a patient number, in room number, whatever it is. There was a floor full of people that knew him. People were there with him, and they had stayed with him all day long, or they had stayed in the hospital just praying for him and spreading the word. When we walked in, the first people we saw were old dear friends of Josh's and ours from Mobile, Alabama. They were vacationing in the area and saw it on social media and came to the hospital. So to have people that you knew that closely and dearly be the first people that you saw was like, Lord, you've got this. He was in the hospital in Colorado Springs for a month. I've always never understood when you've read about or heard about intercessory prayer. And I never really understood that. So when we first get to Colorado Springs and on our way to Colorado Springs, I was so, and not that I didn't know what to pray, but it was just like, there was an emotion, there was something. It wasn't empty, it was just like, I don't even know how to get it out of my mouth. That's when I felt like, oh, so this is what is going on. But when we got to the hospital, and the first couple of days, I started, Lord, I lift my son up to you. I felt like there were a million voices in my head. And they were every mother out there screaming, what about my child? What about my child? And I realized, I thought, what is going on? But at the same time, I'm like, okay, I've got to find peace because I can't sustain this. It was so real. So I finally said, okay, Lord, he's yours. You gave him to me to raise. I love him. But if you're going to take him, I release him to you. I ask you, if you're going to leave him with me, that you would not leave him like this. Hardest thing is projecting yourself. 5 minutes, like people would say, what are you going to do for dinner? Like, are you kidding me? I mean, then we got to where we could not even think 5 minutes ahead. Then we got to where we could slowly think an hour in advance. Once the picture of Josh's condition and what we were facing was becoming a little bit more clear, then we started kind of formulating a plan. He never had any brain swelling. The doctor said, I almost wish he would because I can fix that. So it came to realizing, okay, he's got the one injury that only God can take care of. You know, there's no medicine, nothing else, no surgery that can be done. There was one doctor that immediately, she was the trauma surgeon that was there when he came in, and she was very matter of fact. You have to think of Josh. We told her we are thinking of Josh, and what we believe as a family is that Josh is not done giving. He'd spent so much of his life giving to other people, and he's just not done giving. We believe he would like us to give him a chance to fight. When you sit in those meetings like that, you realize that that conversation without them saying it is a really, do you want us to pull the plug? We realized this is huge. We're in this for a very long haul, and we need everybody that walks into this room to see Josh as a person and not a patient. I think my sister and Kelsey, our daughter-in-law, and our other daughter, everybody just kind of jumped in, and they were getting just text messages like crazy. And they said, Josh has got to know how these messages are coming. We can't lose all this. So they went out and got these brightly colored sticky notes and just started recording all those. They took their phones and they printed pictures of Josh and friends and activities and places he had been. And our goal was to plaster that hospital room with those memories. Because we knew that if each person, every nurse, every doctor that walked in would have to notice that. Once he left Colorado Springs, he was air ambulanced to San Antonio, Texas. In San Antonio, there's a VA hospital, and the VA hospital has a center called the Polytrauma. So there's 5 of them in the country, so they were equipped to handle their specialty as spinal cord injuries and traumatic brain injuries. They have a place called the Fisher House right across the street from the hospital that are free to families that have people at the VA. So that is we stayed at that Fisher House for 7 months. When I think back on Josh's military experience and how frustrating that was for him and how none of it went the way he had hoped, we were like, it was such a blessing to have the VA, because I don't know what we would have done without those. Then there were things that began to come out, a lot of people will call them God whispers or God winks that happened along the way. One of them being there were 3 people that administered emergency treatment to Josh on the scene. They were maybe 50 yards away when the accident happened. One of them was a property manager for Young Life, so he was familiar with having first aid experience. One of them was a pharmacist from Buena Vista, and the other one was a special ops medic. All these things came out later, just kind of affirming the decision in the process that, Lord, we believe you want Josh to survive this. We believe you want him to keep giving. What that looks like now may be very different. We have to just lean into you. We know that you immediately gave us three things. One of them was a word, was gratitude. One of them was a verse, Ephesians 3:20, and just paraphrased, it's He alone is able. And the other one was God's got this. Now we had to learn along the process and continue to learn kind of what all that looked like. Now gratitude seemed a little strange, but when things got tough, that's what we leaned into, was that gratitude. It just lifted us and it just gave us peace. If I'm ever getting to the point where I'm feeling really down, and that I go to that gratitude and just thank the Lord, thank you for where we are. You have provided us. You have cared for this family. You have carried us. There's something about gratitude that just creates hope, and hope creates gratitude. And then both of those, to me, create contentment. So it just all goes together. So to me, without learning how to truly release Josh, to release the situation and go to that place of gratitude, and I do have my moments, I'm like, I don't want to be in here. I want to be back to that place of gratitude, because that is my salvation, that is my hope, and that is where the contentment comes through, because God has provided a way for us to deal with all this stuff. And that's what, to me, that's just been probably the most important thing.
Mom. Mom.
Not being able to talk is really, really hard, but I want everybody to know I'm going to be fine. And he has said that all along. He has not once complained. He says, I hate my injury, I hate this accident. He knows he's going to be fine. And he'll tell you that I'm going to be fine. So his drive back to that stubborn kid has served him very well at this point, because hope, everybody tells us hope does incredible things. And hope looks very different. Hope just stands out. And when you're hopeful and you have that heart of gratitude, then it's contagious, and it's contagious to the people that are around and who they're serving Josh. Knowing that God He's equipped for you to handle this. You just have to draw on that. And when you're not drawing on it, it becomes evident. So for me, the biggest change in my faith is just the feeling of gratitude, just loving on each other, letting the little things go. You're keeping your faith in check as far as when are you weak, what's causing you to be weak. It is very different when you get to where in your prayer life you can just focus on gratitude instead of I've got my list of things that I'm kind of wanting or hoping happening or hoping, it just seems to transform you. It just takes you to a very different place in your faith when you focus on just being thankful.